first time I heard Forbes Smiley's voice was at 6 o'clock on a summer Friday, as I was drinking a martini at a Boston bar. It was a warm night after a long week, and I was almost down to the olive when I got the call. "This is Forbes Smiley from the Vineyard," he intoned, speaking in that rich, nasally voice I had heard so many people imitate in the months I'd spent researching a magazine article about his case. Though he'd been caught stealing millions in rare maps nearly 10 years earlier, at the height of his career as a rare map dealer, he'd never spoken to a journalist until now. With some persistence and help from an old friend of his named Scott Slater, I'd finally gotten him to contact me. "I understand that Scott met with you, and you had a conversation, and that he thought it would be a good idea that I speak with you," he continued. Maybe it was just the buzz from the martini, but I found myself having difficulty following his circuitous language. Frankly, I wish these kinds of things would go away, and one might move forward. What I understand is that people are interested in the human story. When someone crashes and burns as I did, you learn certain things, and that may be interesting to some people. After a bit more back and forth, he agreed to an interview, and we settled on some ground rules. Chief among them that I would not report on his wife and son any more than necessary in order to tell his own story. A week later, I was on a ferry to the island of Martha's Vineyard, off the south coast of Massachusetts, to meet him. We talked for 4 hours at an outdoor picnic table, where I found him to be candid, thoughtful, and even funny. By the end of the interview, I was convinced that an article wasn't enough space to tell his story. After a second interview a few months later, I broached the subject of a book. He initially threw cold water on the idea. "I'll be straight up right now. I think it would be difficult to write without me saying a lot more than I am willing to say," he said, adding tantalizingly, "I could tell you stories that would make your hair curl." After a few months, however, he agreed through Slater to participate. I secured a book contract and began talking to friends, map dealers, librarians, and law enforcement officers. Only after I was well into the reporting did the stalling begin. We made another date to meet on the Vineyard, which he canceled. We set a time to meet in Boston, which he canceled. Finally, the night before another scheduled meeting in a Boston suburb, I received an email from him. After speaking to his closest confidant and advisor, he said he decided not to participate any further.